This is the Water Quality Association podcast.
It's not removing people from the organization. What it's doing is it's making them more efficient, and it's allowing the organization to scale with less friction so that we can actually do more business, which actually supports more people. So I kind of look at it much differently than most people, but I'm super excited about it.
That's former WQRF and WQA board member Michael Baird talking about AI and how he uses it to grow his business. And welcome to the podcast from the Water Quality Association, the leading voice of the residential, commercial, and industrial water treatment community. Find us at WQA.org. I'm Wes Bleed. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a show, and be sure to share it with someone on your team. And a reminder, you can watch our podcasts on YouTube. In this episode, we talk with Mike Baird, CEO of Aquamor, a California-based manufacturer of water filtration products serving both the residential and commercial markets. Mike has been exploring how AI can help reduce friction in organizations, improve consistency, and support employees in their daily tasks. We'll talk with Mike about how his company is using AI agents, what he means by assisted intelligence, as he puts it, and how even smaller water treatment companies can begin exploring practical applications of AI. Plus, we'll have our WQA tip. It's all coming up on the Water Quality Association podcast. Mike, so nice to have you on the podcast. Thanks for joining us and being willing to talk a little bit more about how your business uses AI. So welcome.
Thank you, Wes. Yeah, glad to be here.
Tell us, first of all, a little bit about Aquamor. What do you do and how long you've been around in the water treatment space?
So Aquamor is a manufacturer of various water filtration products, everything from refrigerator water filters up to small commercial systems, including RO for food service and that kind of thing, up to about 3,000 gallons per day. And we've been in business since 2004.
Okay. And for purposes of our conversation, it might be good to note how large of a company or how many employees.
Yeah, we have about 100 employees, and we have, I think, 4 buildings at the moment here in Temecula, California area.
So specifically now about artificial intelligence, how did you begin using it for your business? What caused you? What prompted you to get involved? And then we can take it from there.
Yeah. I would say I've always been interested in this side of technology. I mean, many, many years ago, I actually owned a small internet service provider. Remember those when you dial up on a telephone and, get your internet service and, did that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so always just been very interested, and I love to stay up to date on tech. And for some reason, I just, at least in this area, I stumbled into a lot of study and a lot of work. And it's sort of been a path to get where we're at or where I'm at today. But it's, to me, it's just been fascinating, fascinating changes and a fascinating, almost exciting time, really, the way I see it, to be in business and to sort of see all these changes occurring around us. It's just, for me, just quite fascinating.
So could you describe for us in general, and we can get more specific as we go, what essentially does AI mean for your business? How are you using it? And I'm guessing it's a lot more than just pulling up ChatGPT and asking a few questions.
Yeah, I agree. I think the way I like to describe it today in the most simplest terms is I call AI assisted intelligence. And in the end, it's a set of tools that we can train to have great consistency and to be able to take on some of the daily sort of grunt work, if you will, within our organizations at all levels. And what I really believe is going to happen is not what people believe. What I've found is that it's not removing people from the organization. What it's doing is it's making them more efficient, and it's allowing the organization to scale with less friction so that we can actually do more business, which actually supports more people. So I kind of look at it much differently than most people, but I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, and I should also mention that you were on a panel discussing this very topic at the WQA convention, and that's one thing led to another, and we thought it would be good to just kind of get into the details rather than simply play part of the presentation back to people, even though I'm sure it would be valuable to listen to as well. But okay. I mean, I kind of like your theory. I like your approach. I mean, you could be adding people down the road, not necessarily cutting staff. So that's exciting right then and there. So, all right. Assisted intelligence. I like that too. How is it assisting you? How about that?
Company, if you think about it, we all have different people in different departments and different responsibilities or tasks that need to be completed. And we've all heard for years and years, we need SOPs, follow an SOP. We need an SOP for this and an SOP for that. And really, in the end, what an SOP is about, it's about creating consistency in the output that we deliver for whatever the customer is. But also it's about reducing and removing friction, because oftentimes the stopping points in companies are experienced when we don't know what to do next, or we don't know how to accomplish that thing next. And that's why we always say in business, the problems we had before aren't a problem because we know what to do. It's the problems we've never faced, that cause us more problem because we're stuck. We need to develop this new process or procedure, how to do it. So if we look at it from that standpoint, the way we're using agents, or the way I think we're moving to using AI today, is by training agents and training what we're calling skills today, which really are just SOPs. How do you want these agents to perform? What do you want them to perform? How often do you want them to perform that? And so what could they do within your entire organization to support the people that you have and to support the tasks that they do, so you can eliminate sort of the drudge busy work, but allow those people to really focus on the high end and the much higher end of what they do and how they do it, in order to sort of bring that skill set, sort of bring that capability for the organization in each area up a whole nother level or two of quality and capability.
So you have used the word agents. You've talked about that a couple of different ways, and I want to make sure we all are on the same page. And I'll make it, as basic as we can here. Describe what you mean by an agent and what tools or platforms or programs are giving you or providing you with those agents.
So I think most are familiar with using any of these LLMs in a chat mode. So for example, ask a question, get a response. Ask another question, get a response. So that's sort of, let's call it level one. Level two is, well, here's a document, help me format that document, or help me do something with it. So you provide the document, it provides something back. You continually critique that thing, then you get it back. So that's sort of step by step, you're working back and forth with the document. Let's look at the next level. They talk a lot about vibe coding. Okay, help me design an app. Help me create this app using HTML, and here's what I want the app to do. And so once you start describing it, it does that. So that's sort of the different areas that most people are using the LLMs, or what people call AI, for. But imagine this. Imagine that we can actually create what technically they call a harness. Now, that's kind of going back to how do we harness a horse? How do we take advantage of that horsepower, if you will? And so the harness is something that's designed to cause an LLM to sort of take on a personality, or take on a role and responsibility for you, and to sort of exhaustively or inexhaustively, if you will, continue to focus in this way to do work for you under that persona or personality, if you will. So when you define a agent, you're really defining how you want this LLM to respond, how you want it to think, and how you want it to do its tasks, or what viewpoint or what angle you want it to come from to do that. So if you can imagine within that, as a business owner, you could actually define someone that would be, for example, a CFO. You could, even if you already have a CFO, you could have your own that would actually be looking at the output that was generated. You could have a marketing person. You can have a salesperson, a sales manager. So you can almost develop any of these roles, if you will, within it. You can have a customer service person. Not necessarily that you would replace these people in your organization, but as business owners, we often have questions, or we often want to know something about our business, but we worry sometimes that we challenge our existing people too much. We have, too many questions, too much analysis, too much digging, too much detail. So with these different types of tools, we can actually dig quite down into the weeds, if you will, without annoying people, and sort of develop interesting viewpoints and interesting information that we wouldn't otherwise have access to. But we can also create a situation where we're energizing or empowering these agents to help look at some information and to help generate reports or reporting that those same people would use. So, for example, for us, let's say we have somebody in operations. So we're looking at manufacturing production lines. Well, we can design a set of agents that are experts in, for example, quality, manufacturing efficiency. And so what we do is we provide them the same data that our teams have today from those areas, and then we ask them to exhaustively go through and develop dashboards or reports or other types of information that they can use to actually do more in their job and sort of find these, for example, bottlenecks, inefficiencies, other types of problems. So what we're doing is we're sort of creating a network of support structures for our people in the organization, allowing them to, for example, feed those agents information and get back output. And what we do during that process is we train these agents to have a skill or an SOP that tells them how to do the output, how we want to see it, what format we want to see it in, so that it's always consistent, so we can start using their information to drive processes and drive real work in the company.
Yeah. Fascinating. You mentioned the word harness. I'd like to get more on that. What is a harness? Is it something that, again, a certain program provides you as, one of the sub-levels of the AI program itself, or is there something else that you have to layer?
What's happening for most of the LLMs today that we talk about, so if we talk about major ones, Anthropic or OpenAI or others, they're sort of on this path of adding these harnesses in for you. So for example, today you can select what they call agent mode within any of these LLMs, and so it's by itself trying to set up these agents for you to get this kind of work and output done. But in order for you to get the best result, what it takes is some time for you to train these agents on what is going to be the best output for your company and what is going to be the best sort of SOP, if you will, or guideline of what you want them to do, how to do it. So for example, if you trained an agent to do customer service, well, what information do they need to know in order to provide good answers? Where do you find that information and how do you organize it? It's just like training a new customer service person coming into your company, because when they start, they don't know what the right answers are. So you're sort of spending some time to train them, and the reason you're doing it is not that you're trying to replace necessarily a customer service agent that you have, but what if that agent could spin up draft emails for them instantaneously that they can then approve and send out, but it allows your customer service person to spend more time one-on-one on the phone with your customers, spending more time meaningful time rather than just busily answering emails. So these harnesses really are just training these agents to be or act in a role that you're expecting them to. And the companies, Anthropic and OpenAI and others, are also at the same time trying to reinforce this agent mode, because what they're realizing is that this is the future of where the LLMs are going, is to provide ways to actually get real work done that will sort of impact positively the companies that are using these tools. Because just asking questions, getting answers is exciting, it's interesting, but it's not actually doing work. So it's how do we turn these tools that are very smart seemingly when you ask questions into something that can actually get real work done. And that's what the harness is about.
Can you give us an example of how, in maybe customer service, responding to emails, that sort of thing, you are currently using AI, and how much human interaction is there with that level of service, so that you can, for example, know for sure that the emails being generated are in fact what you want said to the customer?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's a real problem, and we're not at the place today where we allow the AI to answer those things by themselves. But so let's back up. So in that particular space, the way that we did this is we provided the email communications for the past year to the AI tool, and we said, okay, here's our customer service responses to all of our customers for the past year. And we had already defined this role for the AI agent, saying, your job is going to be to watch incoming emails. And when emails come in for questions, your role is to draft a response and present these draft responses to our in-house customer service people for them to review and to look at. So now that AI's job is to look at those incoming emails. It knows and understands what we answer in the past and how we've answered these questions in the past. And it's built that as a skill. And now what it does is it looks at those emails, drafts a response. Then the customer service person now is looking at the customer email, but they're also looking at a draft response at the same time. And they're slightly editing it or approving it. And if they edit it, the AI actually knows it's been edited, and it goes back and reevaluates and says, okay, I'll change that next time. So it's learning as it goes to get better responses each time. And hopefully we get to a point where the human is not having to change that response in any way, shape, or form, but is able to be very consistent on those answers. And we can use that tool to help speed their job up. And that's an example of setting that up.
And so far, have you stumbled in any way? Have you run up against some hurdles you didn't expect? Have things, I don't know, have perhaps a customer was not satisfied with the response they got, or anything along those lines that you could tell us about, that you say, hey, we had to stop and relook at this?
Yeah, there's always, I guess the truth is this is a learning process every single day. So, you always have to be willing to stop and say, well, this isn't working, exactly what we want. And, how do we change that? As an example, one of the big problems, if you only take the steps as I outline them without thinking them through, one of the problems that occurs is do our answers always sound like AI generated? Do they always sound like, or do they have, some of the punctuation that is normally used by AI in every one of our emails? And of course, pretty soon people, start noticing that and say, well, that's not really what I want. So as an example, that started happening, and we said, okay, well, how can we repair that? So we went back and we said, okay, go back over that past year's worth of past year's worth of emails, and let's train on the type of responses, and let's make sure we're putting them in the voice of the customer service person that you're working with. And let's make sure that we're removing that, and we're making sure the language is in the format we expect, not in an AI generated format. So as we go, you have to learn, here's the problem, how do we fix it? Here's what's happening, how do we fix it? So it's it's very much like working with an employee. You know, you're going to find things they do that you're not happy with, but it's sort of how do we improve that SOP, or how do we improve the training so that they're not doing that? And ultimately, the way I see it, the goal is to get them as consistent as they can be, and the output as clean and consistent as it can be. And the bottom line is that only very recently have we been able to work with these LLMs in this way to allow this kind of consistency in output. So it's all very new. It's on the leading edge, really, of where companies are at today, and it's really not something that we were able even to do very consistently 12 months ago.
How about WQA members? I'm thinking you're representing the manufacturing space, but we also have a lot of dealers, and many of them are small businesses, maybe 7, 8, 9 employees. How do you see them potentially using AI for their business?
I think really any business will benefit using it, mainly because if you think about it as an ultimate remover of friction, we could all use less friction in our businesses. So even, I think to a great extent, the smaller the company, the better the potential result, or the more leverage or the more power that you can provide, because it's much easier to train a small group of people on how to do this than really big companies to sort of move and change lots of people to get used to, how this works. And realistically, the good news is that probably, at least today, the best way to use these tools is to create an agent that's available and works for the entire company. Not that each employee would have their own agent that they're trying to develop and train. So it's almost like the company takes it on as a job to train these agents and help set them up so that they can smooth out or make the job easier, faster, smoother, for every department or every person that you have. And I think it's very doable and very easy, almost easier really for small companies if they think of it that way, rather than sort of thinking of it as a task that every employee has to do. I think in the end, I think most employees are at a place where they don't want something new to learn. They don't want a new piece of software to learn. They don't want a new application. They really want somebody they can throw something at and they get an answer that, or real output that's consistent and can help make their job faster. And when they can have a partner/agent that's like that, that makes their job easier rather than having to learn something new. So when they can interact with the agent just via their email, say, hey, Joe, help me with this. Here's what it is. And when they get the output back from the agent, it's consistent, it's always the same, and it performs the task at hand, then it makes their job easier, and it can be used very, very easily with small companies.
Now, let's get to the bottom line, Mike. Have you noticed any kind of ROI that you can talk about, or efficiencies that you've been able to notice or document that might help somebody catch the vision for this?
The people that are using these tools, they're actually getting a lot more output done. But what's interesting is it seems like the creative people who are very driven sort of on a creative side to do more with their department or with their job, they get so excited because they can do things that they hadn't been able to accomplish before, or they can get things done that they had always wanted to get done. Even simple things like, I want to take, for example, our customer files, and I want to reorganize all of those customer files in X, Y, and Z ways. And I want to amend them and make sure that they're updated to the most current, that information. It's sort of a drudgery task. Or even, for example, I want to go through my sales catalog and I want to update all of the information to be, complete and correct, and update these different pieces so that when my customers contact me, they have more consistent information. When you can actually define that and you can just request it in words and that work is getting done, it gets quite exciting because it's things that have been on the back burner for quite some time, and we can start tearing through that. What we're finding is people get excited and they're actually working more hours and sort of, having fun with it, right? Because it's so interesting when we can get those things that we've always wanted to get done, and it doesn't require the tremendous man hours that it used to take. So I would say we're noticing it really in the people side of the equation, where we just see how people are getting so excited that they can get things done that they hadn't really gotten done before. And we're certainly seeing it from the standpoint of removing frictions from the standpoint of things being slow. So we feel like we're able to get, as an organization, more things done with the same amount of people, rather than sort of a concept of, are we getting an ROI immediately on it? Well, if I had to hire 3 or 4 people to get those jobs done, which I could do, the cost would be thousands of times higher than the cost that these models are costing us to run. So I would say, yeah, the ROI is almost instantaneous, because you're getting equivalent of, very simply, 1 employee, but in this case, I'd say, handfuls of employees, and it's really costing you a couple $100 a month at the max.
All right, let's kind of bring it home with the thought of how do those businesses that, again, really just dipping their toe into the water, they haven't really done much, how do you get started? And then also for anybody who has already gotten started, how to stay up on top of the quickly changing nature of AI?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think there's any one great answer. I can tell you what I do. Personally, I do a lot of watching YouTube videos and listening to podcasts. There's a lot of great podcasts available. So frankly, every morning when I'm coming into the office and when I'm going home at night, I'm listening to some interesting podcasts, and there's a number, and I think they help you stay on the front edge of what's being introduced, because the sad thing is now that with the AI models themselves being able to improve the software of the AI models themselves, we're actually seeing updates to this software almost daily. And so there's new features and new things being added literally almost daily. And certainly the software that we're using for these tools, I'm seeing updates almost every day, if not every other day. And so there's features and things being added almost continuously. So the only way to stay with it is you really do have to spend a little bit of time with it. And it doesn't have to be everyone in the organization, but if you have somebody that has some interest, I would say, just spending a reasonable amount of time on it. And frankly, I think you almost have to spend an hour on it each day, just sort of digging in. And I think the investment is well worth it. Simply because I think you're going to see so many frictions removed in your business and so many capabilities received, from what's out there. And again, it's changing so fast that I think it's worth staying on top of. It's definitely interesting.
Well, great. And maybe we can have you back on the show again sometime down the road, or some others some other members who have caught the vision like you, Mike. So we appreciate it. Great to catch up with you. Great having you at convention to deal with this. And we're hoping members from WQA and others in the industry can, as I say, catch the vision and begin to implement it in their business as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Wes. Have a great day.
Our WQA tip, WQRF's Summer School Webinar Series is back. Join us this summer for our summer webinar series running June through August. Each session features expert insights, practical takeaways, and the latest trends in the water treatment industry. Whether you're looking for deepening your knowledge or just staying current, this series is the perfect way to learn, connect, and grow all summer long. Go to WQRF.org/webinars to learn more and register. And a big thank you to Calgon Carbon for sponsoring our Summer School Webinar Series. Thanks for joining us for the Water Quality Association podcast. Learn more about water and water filtration at our consumer website, betterwatertoday.org. And learn more about professional certification, the Gold Seal Product Certification Program, and how you can become a member at wqa.org.